Osho quick. Osho Akuduweli. Osho Adolo.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oshi Sewa.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You're talking to do.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I'm riding my rhymes on the biggest pad. My people be watching, they think it's mad. I'm laughing and grinning because I just roll up and pick up the money in the biggest bag. In 2020 we'll be rolling hard. That be why the banger be going hard. You think that we slow when you see what we doing? We give you the music, we're going far. We're headed for the top now, never gonna stop now, never gonna flop now. Keep it going, and we're never gonna drop now. So you better stop now, never gonna tap now. We be going, you people thinking we joking and really funny. Look at the ratings and be checking your silly money. We taking everything you're putting on the table, leaving you disabled. You only get a silly dummy. They call me the chief.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Big boy never sleep.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Put the rap on fleek.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
With a 363.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
They call me the chief.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Champion station.
We will hide the song from some people.
Get me ready on the flick. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Charlie, no.
Sped up slightly.
Brutally.
I'll be the chief. Silly money. We taking everything you're putting on the table, leaving you disabled. You only get a silly dummy. They call me the chief.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Big boy never sleep. Oh yeah.
No, Charlie, you're a big man. You're a big boy. You're a big boy.
I love it.
We'll drop it properly later.
Yeah.
Or Bodai.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Let me say,
will you change your? Okay, you know, as the manager, no. I hope you are aware I'm the manager.
oh, okay, that's good. That's nice
I've
to
been
know.
manager for a year now.
Okay, don't pay Payo. That's the only story.
Yeah, I don't do payo.
That's all.
I'm a very hard guy when it comes to that one.
Let's get into the
All right.
headlines.
Front page of the Daily Graphic says that committee refers Honyanuga to plenary, and this is regarding the vetting of Supreme Court nominees, but approves Amadu, faith-based organizations laud government for extending ban on public gatherings.
The Ghanaian Times says public social gathering defiance will deal with lawbreakers. The president speaking there. COVID-19 impact on businesses, jobs. Inject 18 billion cedis to revamp economy. TUC to government. Ghana's confirmed cases and COVID-19 cases now 4,700. 494 recover, 22 die. And judiciary must protect the rights of citizens. Justice Tanko Amadu.
Okay.
Front page of the Daily Statesman. Sunyani residents get nose mask for free, which is really good news. Your conduct is troubling. EC charges at minority leader over false claims. Deal with recalcitrant citizens in COVID-19 fight. President tells police.
The New Crusading Guide says, Koku dares Mahama. Hang me if I was ever rude to you. GIEC seemed to register $5 billion earnings from export in 5 years. That's according to the MD. And EC's new voter registration could escalate COVID-19 spread. That's coming from a political analyst.
Today will be a very busy day at the court, Bernard, according to the front page of the Daily Guide. Ex-NCA board members' judgment today.
Wow.
Auditor General contempt ruling today. Judge sorry for Nana comment. Also here, we will compile new register. EC assures.
The Chronicle says, gang of 30 raids GPHA boss's house, led by national security operative. Gas explosion kills 3 at Ashaiman. I softened my stance on sentencing after seeing conditions in prison. That's Justice Honyanuga there. And Odikro of Gomwa Ekwam Krom takes Amankrado title away from Chidan family.
Front page of the BNFT. COVID-19 impact. More businesses adopt salary cuts, layoffs to survive. With no source of growth and no cure in sight, insurance recapitalization remains in limbo.
The Finder says TUC pump 18 billion cedis into economy, supports borrowing from Heritage Fund, wants law on BOG financing of budget deficit relaxed. EC accuses Haruna Idrisu of peddling falsehood, and businesses of coffee makers, hairs drivers in sharp decline, and preliminary job losses listed by the TUC.
Moving online, citynewsroom.com. No whistleblower policy in 59% of companies in Ghana. This is a report. Muntaka says, I almost collapsed over Justice Honyanuga's responses at vetting. Other stories, new register compilation will observe safety protocols according to the EC. And Mahama has no right to lodge complaint against me, according to Abronye DC. Other stories on the same website. Nigeria accepts Madagascar's coronavirus cure. And Obuasi residents protest over sighting of COVID-19 Isolation Center. If you go to myjournline.com, claim of COVID-19 infection peak in Ghana is a myth, according to a KCCR virologist. Meanwhile, Move away from enhanced contact tracing, focus on mass testing. This is a global health expert. And also, there are no political cases. Honya Nuga tells appointments committee. Citi businessnews.com. CocoaBot CEO decries destruction of cocoa farms by illegal miners. Oh, Lord. Also, long-term plan required to protect farmers from shocks after COVID-19. This is from the Peasant Farmers Association. Meanwhile, MIDA says power disruptions caused by Pokwasi BSP project to end by Monday. So you are having some power outages. It's because of the work happening at Pokwasi. And then MTN profits grow by 62%. That's also a good story coming in there. Let me take you to Star FM, their lead story. We've not received PPE from government. EC to Haruna Idrisu. Also, I'm sorry for endorsing Akufo-Addo Supreme Court judge nominee. And government says we'll take your critiques in good faith. This is Kojo Opon Nkrumah speaking to the NDCs. In the BBC lead story, more than 100 virus cases linked to Seoul clubs, South Korea capital Seoul, nightclubs, had a number of cases because they had opened. Also, White House staff ordered to wear masks. White House staff ordered to wear masks. Now, CNN has a story from Ghana. A solar-powered hand-washing basin encourages personal hygiene in Ghana. We interviewed this gentleman from Kumasi, and he actually has one of his sinks here. He's made it to CNN's front page. Also, other stories, renewed outbreaks in China and South Korea show risk of reopening. So this thing is becoming like not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, let me take you to Nigeria. There's a very interesting story on their front page of Channels TV. Catholic bishops donate over 400 hospitals to be used as isolation centers in Nigeria. And then the Nigerian health minister says, we are getting sample of Madagascar cure to see how it works. So that's a good one. Whilst their case count, they have 4,641, closely trailing Ghana. Kenya's cases now 700. And Wuhan reports new virus infections as well. Gentlemen, let's go into the details, starting with
let me tell you about the grinder that Supreme Court Justice nominee, Justice Honyoniga, was put through yesterday. Bernard, if you watched it, hey, no be easy. Well, details are on the front page of the Daily Graphic. A nominee for the Supreme Court, Mr. Justice Clemens Honyoniga, failed to secure unanimous approval from the Appointments Committee of Parliament when he appeared before it for vetting yesterday. The committee voted on a 10-7 approval. However, the other nominee, Mr. Justice Isifu Umoro Tanko Amadu, who was also vetted on the day, had unanimous approval. A member of the committee, Mr. Samuel Kujota Blakwa, told the Daily Graphic last night that since Justice Honyanuga had approval based on a majority decision, the report on his nomination will be sent to the plenary of Parliament for a full debate and for a vote to be taken. Co-Chief Justice Honyanuga had won by consensus like his colleague Amadu. It means the report to the plenary will just follow the motion and it will be a simple voice vote and not a round-cross debate for a yes and no vote, the NDC MP for North Tong said. The minority was not convinced he was forthright and sincere. He breached several provisions in Rules 1, 2, and 5, and particularly 6S of the Code of Conduct for Judges and Magistrates, which frowns on judges endorsing a political office holder. Now, Justice Honyanuga apologized, Bernard, when he appeared. He said he apologized to anyone who might have been offended by the statement he had read praising the president. Also spoke about capping of justices, balance in appointments, and also decongesting prisons.
Yes, and that was where he stated that he used to be a very hard judge while he served at the High Court. However, when he became head of the Justice for All program, everything he saw mellowed him.
Yes.
And that's what he told the Appointments Committee yesterday.
I think the Justice for All program is one of the best legal interventions in modern history. Essentially powerful way of reducing the congestion in prisons and bringing justice to remand prisoners. Now, today we have two other people facing the committee.
Professor Mensah Bonsu is on today.
Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu and Yoni Kulendi. So keep an eye out for that one. Now, you haven't said anything about COVID. I have about 4 COVID stories.
Yes. Let me give you the TUC.
Yes.
The TUC has a few things to tell government. Now, it has urged government to inject $3.1 billion, which is an equivalent of 18 billion cedis into the economy to ameliorate the impact of COVID-19 on the country.
Okay.
This, it said, was the only way to boost consumption and export, to revamp the economy and restore gross domestic growth to 7% by the end of the year. Now, this was captured in a statement issued by the TUC yesterday in a preliminary assessment of the impact of COVID-19 on enterprises, employment, and livelihood in Ghana, and it was copied to the government.
Well, I have two stories for you. I'll give you the first one from page 16. Pioneer Food Cannery resumes operation after shutdown. Pioneer Food Cannery in Tema has resumed production, albeit partially, after it was shut down for 3 weeks when 533 of its workers tested positive for the coronavirus disease. An internal memo signed by the plant director of the company, Mr. Johnny Laducci, on May 9, 2020 to all workers announced that the factory would resume partial production effective yesterday following the full disinfection of its plants as well as the self-quarantine of staff who came into contact with the confirmed cases. Now, when you go to page 13 of the Daily Graphic, faith-based organizations laud government for extending ban on public gatherings, and these are made up of the National Chief Imam, the Christian Council of Ghana, the Ghana Pentecostal and Charismatic Council, and the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference.
Yeah, Nathan, before you come to the effects of COVID, I just have a few more COVID-specific stories. Move away from enhanced contact tracing, focus on mass testing. This is myjournalline.com. Story says that a senior research fellow at KNUST is urging government to move away from testing people through enhanced contact tracing methods and focus on testing the general population. We've been looking at where we expect the cases to be. Now, what happens is that as the infection spreads, you'll not be able to catch up with the rate of the spread because the infection can end up being almost everywhere and not just being in specific places. Dr. John Amuisi told the Super Morning Show. Now, still on testing and still on claims of peaks. This one is saying claims of COVID-19 peak infection is a myth. KCCR virologist at KCCR, Dr. Augustina Angelina Silverking, says that the number of novel coronavirus cases in Ghana has not reached its peak, and she says that the idea in relation to Ghana's situation is a myth which must be shelved at this point. This goes contrary to the information presented to the Ghanaian populace by the Ghana Health Services Director of Public Health, Dr. Bedu Sakode, who suggested that the infection curve at the time, which stood at 2,719, had peaked. But following that, various interviews have been done, and many people have said that that was not true. Now, still on COVID-19, Obuasi residents protest sighting of COVID-19 isolation center. Now, Obuasi has the most cases in Ashanti region. CityNewsroom.com has a story. Authorities of the Obuasi East District Assembly in the Ashanti region have called for calm after residents at Abusko Last Stop, a suburb in the district, kicked against the sighting of a COVID-19 isolation center in their area. Residents say the location may expose them to the disease. They want authorities to reconsider the decision since the building earmarked as the center is located in the middle of the town. We are not going to allow this thing to come here. It's going to be dangerous for the communities here. We will never agree with this, the people said. Now, Nathan, let's come back to you on effects of COVID.
Yes. So, after the TUC asked government to pump in a good amount of money, they've also listed, a number of companies that have been affected heavily. So, Ibis Styles, they say 105 people have been affected in terms of staff. Alisa Hotel, 203. African Regions, the number is there. They've stated different companies that have laid off workers and are practicing shift systems. They've reduced capacity. So, they've brought some detail there. So
did they put all the numbers together, though?
No, but they
give the breakdown. Now, still on effects of COVID, there's an interesting one on citybusinessnews.com where we are told that farmers and farms could be seriously affected by COVID-19. And this story is saying that long-term planning is required to protect farmers from the shocks after COVID-19. This is according to Peasant Farmers Association. The Ghana Peasant Farmers Association has advised government to have a long-term plan to cushion farmers against the unforeseen circumstances that COVID-19 will cause. They say the outbreak should serve as a guide to protect farmers against natural occurrences. Now, speaking to City Business News, Program Officer of the Ghana Peasant Farmers, Bismarck Owusu Norte, said it's time to look beyond COVID-19 and put in place measures to protect farmers in the future.
Front page of the BNFT has a story of the impact of COVID on businesses, but you'll find the full story on page 3. It says that as the coronavirus pandemic sweeps through the world with its resulting impacts threatening the survival of businesses, more and more companies operating in Ghana, they have no option than to jettison staff or at best cut their salaries in order to keep their businesses afloat.
Wow.
With the local tourism and hospitality industry alongside the education sector grinding to almost a halt with its attendant job cuts and reduced salaries, many more businesses in other sectors are exploring these options in order to sustain operations until a vaccine is found or the virus is brought under absolute control. Now, there's been a survey conducted, and the outcomes are in the story.
Now, if you get back to the finder on page 4, still on the impact of COVID-19, businesses of coffee makers, hairdrivers in sharp decline. So a story written by John Apia and Christabel Oboshi Annan says coffin makers and operators of hearses are lamenting a sharp decline in their businesses as a result of the pandemic. According to them, many families have decided not to bury their loved ones due to the restrictions imposed on elaborate funerals as part of measures to control the spread of the virus. Per the restrictions, only private funerals with not more than 25 attendees can be organized. Now, the finder spoke to the secretary of the Kolebu Coffin Makers Association, Joseph Lamte, and he gave details, and also the assistant chief hearse driver at the police hospital, Moses Siga, also gave a few details to the finder.
Well, Bernard, there's a big story on the back page of the BNFT. Now, there's been a call for debt relief.
Yes.
And apparently there was a big meeting, video conference meeting this week. And it says that debt relief calls get cool welcome in some of the poorest nations. African ministers held a video conference call to discuss debt relief last week. The same concern kept cropping up: how to cut the payments without jeopardizing future access to markets. One African finance minister, who asked not to be named because of the sensitivity of negotiations, said creditors may victimize his country if he's too vocal about a waiver in public. Benin's finance minister, Romuald Wadanyi, has argued the risk of being shut out of debt markets may outweigh the benefits of a debt service suspension. So that is a conversation that is currently ongoing.
Now, I wanted to take me to the EC, and
Yes.
there are issues with the minority.
All right.
That story is
There are
also
two
trending.
stories, one on the front page of the Daily Statesman and the other on the front page of the Daily Guide. The Statesman says, your conduct is troubling. EC charges at minority leader over false claims. You'll find details on page 2. It says that in what appears to be a planned systematic campaign strategy by the opposition NDC ahead of this year's presidential and parliamentary elections, the party's minority in parliament has joined the Lion Spree, currently being spearheaded by their flag bearer, former President John Dramani Mahama. The NDC minority in parliament, led by their leader, in an attempt to sully the EC, held a press conference on May 7 where they alleged that the elections management body had received PPEs from the Kufuor government at the expense of health workers and other frontline persons in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the EC has responded and says the EC has not stated anywhere that it has received personal and protective equipment from government, as stated by the minority leader during the press conference. The EC said yesterday in a statement signed by its acting director of public affairs.
Now, the EC
Sylvia
also
Ano.
say that they will observe safety protocols during the new register compilation. And the story says the Electoral Commission has said it will observe the necessary protocols when it begins the compilation of a new voters register. The EC said the necessary precautions have been put in place to ensure safety in the execution of its mandate. All stakeholders are hereby reminded that plans are far advanced for the compilation of new voters register with a new voter management system for the coming 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. The Commission is, however, sensitive to the current state of affairs due to COVID-19 pandemic and will abide by the necessary precautions and safety protocols in execution of its mandate when it deems it appropriate to begin the compilation of the register.
Okay.
But why are they the ones who would deem it? I think the president has told us what we should do. So until he raises he lifts all the bans, nobody can do anything. Do you get me? So I don't think it lies within the EC's own mouth, because I think we have all been asked to abide by certain things that the president has directed. So I don't know whether it's they who will determine that or whether it's the president who will determine that. Anyway, let's go to other stories, guys.
Yes, let's get to the Chronicle, and on page 8 there is a very sad story coming from a Ashaiman of a gas explosion killing certain people. So,
And while we're at it, I also have a couple of cocoa stories for you. But let's start with the
yes,
gas one.
so it says a gas explosion at Lebanon Zone 2, a suburb of Ashaiman, has left 51-year-old Michael Akpelete and his 2 children dead. The 3 persons got burnt when a gas cylinder exploded last Thursday. Eyewitnesses' accounts indicated that the wife of the deceased lit a gas stove to prepare rice porridge and left it in the care of her children to the market.
Oh no.
According to the witnesses or the eyewitnesses, a few minutes after the woman left, the gas cylinder exploded when the husband and the children were all in the room. They couldn't come out as they were trapped, and they consequently suffered massive burns. And when they were sent to the Tema General Hospital.
Now let's talk about power briefly. Power disruption caused by Pokwasi BSP project to end by Monday. This is MIDA. Story says the Millennium Development Authority has assured electricity consumers within parts of Accra, West and East regions of the ECG that recent disruptions to their power supply should be over by next week, Monday, the 18th of May. It will follow the completion of the relocation of all 4 of Gridco's transformers to the Pokwasi bulk supply point. This affected parts of Tema and Accra, Community 1, Sites 17 and 18, Tema Community 8 and 9, parts of Ashaman, East Legon, Manet Estate, Jehovah Witnesses Camp, Chimota School, Action Chapel, Standards Board, Medina ACP Estates, Pokwasi Ridge, and Collison Farms. All right, Godfred, let's come back to you.
Let me give you a couple of stories. On page 9 of the Daily Guide, Cocoa Board boss decries Cocoa Farms distraction. That has to do with illegal miners who he say are destroying large swaths of cocoa farms in the country. Now, when you go to page 7, quickly, we'll get details later by Prime News. The ex-NCA board members' judgment will come today. And we will also get the contempt ruling today on the Auditor General in the case between him and Yao Osafo-Maafo, the senior minister. And then finally, from me, if you go to the back page of the Daily Guide, in sports, EPL, other sports return June 1, but without fans.
Yeah. Let me now do 2 quick international stories. White House staff will wear masks from yesterday. White House in the US, they have added all their staff to wear masks when entering the West Wing after 2 aides tested positive for coronavirus. Now, Vice President Mike Pence's aide fell ill, and a valet for the president also got infected. Then another quick story from Nigeria. We are getting sample of Madagascar cure to see how it works. Nigeria Health Minister Osagi Ehanire has revealed plans by the federal government of Nigeria to get the Madagascar herbal cure to COVID-19. The minister disclosed on Monday while briefing journalists at the Presidential Task Force. He says plans are put in place to get the herbal product and subject it to analysis to see how it works. In Ghana as well, our pharmaceutical herbalists have also presented samples for trial, hoping that the herbal concoctions can help deal with COVID-19. That's all we have time for on the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News. Stay with us.
This is the Citi